What's up,
Hey, that
everybody?
was
I'm
dope.
JaVonni Brustow.
Can I
Yes,
get
this
that? Can I
is.
have that?
I will. This is Petersburg Solution, bringing you the best of Petersburg's hometown news, and I am here with Mr. Japharii Jones. He is the president of Black Lives Matter 757 and running for lieutenant governor of Virginia. How are you doing, Japharii?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you for the platform. Thank you for having me today. How are you?
I am doing great. And look, before we get started, I wanted to mention um, So it's an interesting story for how the both of us came across each other. I've been in Virginia for about 3 years, and one of the first things I did was I looked up to see who the local Black Lives Matter chapter is. And people would think that's kind of crazy being a Republican and actively seeking out BLM, but I need to know who the important people are. And so BLM 757 was the first I came up with. I ran into Japharii online afterwards. I followed you all, ever since. And I've got to say that a lot of the stereotypes of how, you know, BLM is generally described, I didn't see you throwing any bricks into windows. I didn't see you with any torches, any of that. So, I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, hey. I mean, the revolution has many different factions, but I'm not exactly the brick thrower. I failed at baseball. I'm ambidextrous, but I'm left-handed, but I throw with my right. It's a difficult story, long story.
No
Yeah.
problem. So you got to tell us, so how did BLM 757 get its start?
BLM 757 got to start. So I guess I'll give my introduction, my formal introduction. In 2016, in April, my 14-year-old cousin by the name of Deja Jones committed suicide due to bullying. That was April 16th of 2016, and I was ended up being my family spokesperson for my older cousin, who was her father, and he couldn't necessarily bear the brunt of the burden of carrying on her services, as well as the media attention and everything that came with it. I wasn't accustomed to the media attention myself. I was an entertainer, drummer, event host, event coordinator, talent manager, etc. To a lot of different celebrities and celebrity entertainers, etc. But when my 14-year-old cousin committed suicide, and me and my friend, my DJ homie, business partner, who I did a lot of shows with, we had a visual outside of her school where we pretty much just, set up the microphone. He played some music and had a microphone, and we allowed the children to give their speeches and reflections of Deja, and just pretty much voice what was going on in that high school and in the local area when it came to bullying, etc. So they were saying that she was very vocal about what was happening to her, and she was pretty much ignored. And the kids had told us that just us coming out there with the microphone, something to us was pretty much routine. Us coming out there and just giving them a microphone and giving them a chance to speak. They said, "Hey, sir, we feel like you gave us a voice. They've been ignoring us here, and we feel like we finally have a voice." So and this is 13 and 14 and 15-year-old kids, and I'm just like, wow, like, I mean, we really just came out here doing what we normally would do, on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at the club, or a wedding. We hosted a plethora of different types of events. But it was like, well, these kids are sitting here, being ignored for some very serious issues. So that put a prick in my heart, and we started advocating for anti-bullying and suicide prevention. And then in 2000, later that year in July, Philando Castile was killed. I have a daughter,
Okay.
or I have a daughter, and I had a son at the time. My son is the same age Philando Castile's daughter was at that time. And that was the first time I had ever cried watching the actual news story, because I'm
Yeah.
just like, sitting there watching this daughter, as her father takes his last breath, and she's literally comforting her mom, who can't even console the father of her child as he's descending into the afterlife, because there's a cop there with his gun drawn. So it was like, what are we going to do? We had seen so many cases where, Mike Brown, with, Trayvon Martin,
Right.
with, all these different cases where people just came, they got upset for 2 weeks to 3 months, and then they went away. And then you didn't really hear much more about it. And even here locally in 757, we had a lot of different cases of injustice William Chapman. He was shot and killed in front of the Portsmouth police. He was shot and killed in front of the Walmart by the Portsmouth police officer, Stephen Rankin. We had India Kager, who was shot and killed by the Virginia Beach Police SWAT team. She was an unarmed Navy veteran, as well as David Latham, who was a mental health crisis, and he was shot and killed by Norfolk police. And all this was going on here locally, and if you said it, nobody would know in the world what you were talking about. So it was a combination of both these things, anti-bullying, suicide prevention, but then the constant injustices going on. We had the 757 Unity protest on July the 10th of 2016. We had the protests in 5 different cities. Hundreds of people showed up in the 5 different cities. Hundreds of people showed up in each city at 7:57 p.m. Successfully pretty much shutting down the entire.
I actually didn't know that about 2016.
Yeah, so that was what was the initial spark, and that's what kind of gave us our claim to fame. Where it was just like after that, we honestly didn't know what we wanted, where we wanted to go, but we knew we were tired of what was going on and the same old rhetoric. So that the next day, this happened on a Sunday. The next day, that Monday, our phones and our emails are blowing up with anywhere from mayors to city council people to House delegates. Everybody's, who are y'all? What are y'all? Where'd y'all come from? How the F did y'all, manage to shut down 5 cities peacefully from 3 days of promotion with nothing but a little internet flyer? What is this? And so, we honestly didn't know what it was, but we knew we had something. So it was, like I said, again, we weren't experienced for the most part. There were some activists in different cities who had quote unquote experience, but there were like no long time 6 to 60s giving us, that bread and butter knowledge of what we should or shouldn't be doing to do it. We kind of, we went off on our own. So things kind of snowballed into where we are now. We're coming up on our 5-year anniversary in July. It's been a great, a difficult but great journey. So I said to answer your question, that's how we were originally formulated on July 10th of 2016.
Okay. And I know that in the process, you've been nominated for Activist of the Year from, I think it was iHeartRadio.
Yes.
So obviously, people are definitely taking notice.
Yes. And I said that was in 2018, I want to say, and that it was nominated. I said iHeartRadio, and that's pretty much the local radio station. Well, 103 Jams is a local radio station, but they're sistered with iHeart, which kind of goes all over the world. As an app, and 91 The Beat, which is another pretty much local radio station, but not local radio station. And it was an honor and a privilege. It was, I was nominated unbeknownst to myself. People pretty much had to contact me and tell me they had nominated me because honestly, I hadn't been listening to radio. I've been listening to satellite radio and my Apple Music. So I like to hear cursing. So but so I mean, it was an honor and a privilege to just be nominated. I didn't win. It's fine. But I said, it was an honor just to. I said, again, we came into this expecting nothing. So anything that comes out of it is always a blessing.
Right. And so I could mention you said before that you're not affiliated with any party. So Democrat, Republican, Independent, Green Party, none of that. And so how does that work? Because, of course, it is expected, or at least assumed, that Black Lives Matter is automatically Democrat. So how does that conversation work?
The conversation works, but it doesn't work because it's more so, but like we started this with no affiliation. So, like I said, everything that developed in, to this point, it was, everything has always been and will always be based on the people. So, I myself, I got my rights restored this same year. We were formulated. I was a felon at the age of 23. I was convicted of burglary. I kicked in a room door. It was considered burglary. It shouldn't have been. I was sentenced to 23 years at the age of 23. Honestly, that whole entire time I had been that age. The voting system, I couldn't do anything. So I wasn't, I can't say I was actively paying attention to what was going on in the world around me as far as like the political wills. So when we did come in, we were immediately adopted by the Democratic Party. They pretty much took us under their wing because, they saw, like I said, we shut down 5 different cities at the same time, all peacefully in unison. And so they kind of wanted that power with them at the polls. And we did get spun a little bit. The Tom Perriello, the Democratic candidate for governor at the time.
I thought you were supporting him.
Yeah, we were. And like I said, but the support wasn't reciprocated. And I'll say this up here, and like I'll encourage everybody to look into this, to any Democratic Party, where Democratic Party will choose to support Planned Parenthood over any Black Lives Matter movement. I can almost guarantee you that. So that's something to look at. And like I said, again, just like I said, the ideologies to a degree, it seemed right. And then even as we were campaigning for Tom, I myself heard individuals say, as we're out, trying to get, people to the polls, they're like, oh, they're a Democrat. Oh, I'm voting for them. Say no more. And I was like, I didn't say anything. And you're automatically programmed to vote for this guy because he's a Democrat. And at the time, again, I'm a young activist. It's like, oh, all this is new to me. So it's like, all right. And then they kind of give me the history. It's like, oh yeah, Clinton was a Democrat. Oh, all the token Black saviors were Democrats per se, from anywhere from the 60s on up, after they got to piggyback off of the sweat off of the civil rights movement, which is kind of what the Democrats are trying to do now. But it's just like, we're just like, this ain't gonna work. So, with that, we were able to see then, and then, with different issues that, they didn't want to take on, them proverbially putting down our throats that, we are against the Second Amendment, which we aren't. We shouldn't be fighting for gun rights, which we should be. We shouldn't be protecting the Black womb, which we should be. Black healthcare is pretty much taken on as a joke, especially in for women when it comes to birthing or not birthing their seeds, and the healthcare provided, and the amount of pain that we are supposedly be able to take, and the lack of empathy for our Black women is just like, the more and more, I was surrounded by this, the more and more I was talking, it's like, this ain't sitting right with my soul, bro. Like, I don't know what y'all used to or whatever, but I don't know if people just smile and nod around here, but I literally hear what y'all are saying. This ain't it. So that's how the whole disassociation with any type of political party came, because even with BLM, we're independent. We're not with national. Right. We're not with the international, etc. So at the end of the day, they need to take care of their own mess and be able to speak for themselves. I don't want to be answering questions about them, because I can't answer whatever they got going on.
I do see that on Twitter a lot.
Right.
Where I've seen, people have talked about, the group burning things down, etc., and have accused you of it, just because of the fact that you share the name, when you told people, please name something or name someone who I have harmed or that my group has harmed. You can't.
Just one person. Just one. I just asked for one. Like, you generally just ask for one person. Like, if you can give me one person, like, we can carry on the conversation. But if you can't give me anything other than hearsay, in the court of law, tossed out. So we're being independent. And like I said, and strictly doing this for the sake of the people. I feel like that's kind of where the disconnect happened with, whether it be a political party or a movement or a fashion that came into popularity. Once the cameras are on and you pretty much get everything you asked for, are you going to stay true to the people, or are you going to go to the money? Because it's very easy to go to the money. Like it's been thrown in our face, it's been tossed in our face. Oh, what are y'all gonna do? How are you gonna keep operating? You need money from these big time donors or whatever. I'm like, no, we really don't, because we've been operating for 5 years and we got gas to put in the car to get there. Outside of that, we good. Like, I'm saying, we might have to, just been times we've been on the road, we had to split a 4 for 4. It is what it is. Like, we out here trying to do what we gotta do, what we got. So at the end of the day, whatever that falls, whatever for the benefit of the people. And I feel like being independent, that's making everything, it's going to make everything better. It's going to make it an even playing field, where you can't just come, like, the Democrats have their views, Republicans have their views, and then we feel like a lot of times the people are just forgotten in all those echoes, where it's like they're more so having a sword fight about party lines and they totally forget about why they're supposed to even be having this conversation in the first
Oh,
place,
I'm
which is for
aware.
people.
I say all
Right.
the time that I feel that partisanship tends to make people stupid. As someone who's worked in municipal government, I worked in an IGO as well. I like to discuss policy and actually fixing things, which is why I feel that I'm able to speak to different people. And I'll also add that something I forgot to mention when I stated how we came across each other, as far as uh, automatically looking for Black Lives Matter. The elephant in the room in my area, even though Petersburg happens to be 75% Black, is that the social media around here happens to be, it doesn't reflect that. It tends to be majority white. And it's just very strange to me when I'm looking at that. And literally for a couple years, I sat around saying, where are the Black people? I know that that sounds strange. I shouldn't be sitting here, saying that. Um,
Hey man, you gotta say what you gotta say, man. Only thing people too are saying Petersburg, all you gotta say is whoa wah. Trey Songz in the building.
right.
It's like right, and I said, unfortunately, man. I mean, kudos, shout outs to Petersburg. Unfortunately, I lost a friend, Rashawn Thurman. We shared birthdays. He was killed due to gun violence in Richmond, but he came out of Petersburg. His funeral was in Petersburg. This was some years ago. Like I said again before I was into activism and stuff like that. But I said the city, like she said, is definitely black, mostly black. Like I said, Trey Songz. Like I said, don't let the smooth taste fool you. But we, anybody in Virginia knows what's up with Petersburg, Richmond, et cetera. Like I said, it's like you said, it's not going to reflect. It's just like even with Charlottesville, Charlottesville is a small college town, but you look at the neo-Nazi rally, it didn't make sense, but it did make sense because you can go into a town predominantly white, small town, college town. Like, what resistance are they really going to hold up for real? So they even kind of took advantage of that. So, like you said, I'm definitely. I say I would like, since we are here, I would like to shout out, support any Petersburg supporters I may have. I will need your vote come November, as an independent. So yeah, like Petersburg. Shout out to Petersburg, man.
Yeah, and I was going to say this for later, but I'd also mention that our city council recently let one of the gubernatorial candidates campaign for her run for office, Jennifer Carroll Foy, which was I think she's I don't think she's a bad woman, but it was sort of not it was sort of against the rules. You have to be a resident or have a business in the city, and she had neither, and she just kind of got a prime time speaking slot of 15 minutes. And so, because of this new precedent that was set, I've been inviting like everyone who's running for statewide office to come through and speak to City Council and to mention this time that she, came to the city. I think it was January 16th. If anyone needs any receipts for that. So you have an official invite from me if you want to contact the city clerk and mention that we had a gubernatorial candidate to campaign to them, and you would also like to speak to the city. You're welcome to do so. I just thought that I would mention that you have the opportunity.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would definitely like to speak to the city. I said the first step more so with anything, and like even if it doesn't happen, like I'll still be running regardless. The first step is to gather 10,000 signatures of from the 13 different congressional districts. And I would like to again speak on some of the responsibilities of lieutenant governor. For people that may not know, is lieutenant governor is more or less vice president to the governor, lack of better words, and they officiate and they facilitate several different regions and different coalitions throughout the state ran coalitions that kind of fight for different injustices and different community needs. They also reside over the Senate, kind of keeping them in checks and balances to make sure that the Senate is doing what they are supposed to be doing for the people. They're kind of like a guardian. It's like the governor is kind of like over the entire state. The lieutenant governor is kind of making sure all the different separate entities are operating as they should be for the betterment of the people of the state. So for people not familiar with the lieutenant governor role and what it entails to, like I said, it's a 4-year term, pretty much similar to the governmental role. You can be nonpartisan. You don't have to necessarily be running on the same ticket as the individual running for governor will be running. So say, for instance, I win and I'm independent, and then say, for instance, Princess wins. Princess is independent as well. I don't know. I don't want to shout out. I honestly don't want to say anybody else's name. I just want to say if Princess won, and I guess it doesn't really go to where I was going with this because we're both independent. But say Princess wasn't independent, then I would pretty much still be in line with, or still will be, lieutenant governor to whatever political party she affiliated with. And I also want to make sure people are not only researching independent candidates, but also libertarian candidates, because we did support Joe Jorgensen in the presidential campaign, and they were and are standing up for pretty much the things that we've been marching for, as far as ending diplomatic immunity, taking out big government from our out of our pockets, taking on big pharma, who pretty much poisons us, and gets paid for heavily all the time. And a lot of different issues that we've really been marching for all summer, that it just made more sense to, like I said, it's like, why we have this candidate here who's literally running off of what we're marching for. Why on earth would we support Biden or Trump when there's literally a candidate fighting for what we would like to, see fought for? We're not ignorant. We don't have our blinders off. We're not, blue no matter who. So that whole thing is just like, out the window. And people come at us, in different ways. Like, oh my God, you're splitting the vote. We tried so hard. We've been fighting to get to this point. I was just like, y'all had like 400 years to get this straight, bro. And the fact that y'all haven't, and y'all are still giving them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, we're not Democratic apologists. We're not Republican apologists. We're not anybody apologists. We're like, haven't you done for the people what you said you would do? And fortunately, with us being here for our now 5th year, we've been able to see an entire election cycle go and see exactly who they said they were. So it's like we pretty much came in 2016 was what it was. That's the year that Trump got elected in November. He was elected in November. And that next year, 2017, the blue wave came where all the Democrats ran because everybody hated Trump. So they all pretty much won, whether they were qualified or not. I saw it happen with my own eyes. I saw people who had never even thought about running for office, and they've been in there now for the 4 years and they're getting the benefits and all that good stuff. And I'm proud of them. They wanted me to run. I was like, bro, I've been an activist for 6 entire months. What do you want me to do? And it's just like, well, you have to go in there and give us the love. Like, I don't even understand the words. I don't know what nonpartisan and I don't know conservative. I don't know all these big words y'all keep throwing at me. Like, I'm just from the streets. We don't talk about any of this. What's up with the NWO or like Degeneration X or something? I don't know what other stuff you're talking about. So, fortunately, I've been able to come in, let's say for the past 4 years, almost 5, and been able to see. I've been able to, be around the language and absorb it. And now, it's to the point where I would be comfortable in a room with politicians, with them discussing their issues without feeling like, I was being ignorant to everything they were saying. So,
well, at least you're smart enough to not be used and to let someone just throw you in the fire. Now that's actually impressive to hear.
Yeah, not be used and then not be, it's like they offered us a cattle on 1,000 hills to a degree. And, it's just like, that's cool. And it's like, well, don't y'all need money? I'm like, I mean, we need money, but like, that's not our be all means. Like, and it's like, when you express that to people who are, wealthy or whatever, it just like blows their monster mind. It's just like, wait, what?
It's a slap in the face. It's like eating,
right? It's like, y'all,
money, or I have to do something about you.
You're not rich and you don't want my money. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm fine. Like, I ate today. Like, pretty much all the important stuff happened today. Like, my cell phone's still on. So I don't really know where you want me to go with this. But if y'all doing wrong by the people, we will be shouting you out. Like I said, we're close to 30,000 on our Facebook. Even though we can't go live for a few more days, we're at 20,000.8K on Instagram. We're like, Twitter's like our weakest, so like 6,000. We have our own, website up. We've been in numerous, national and international headlines, etc. So it's like, we've grown to the power now where, us pushing the button on a protest or a live video or all that, it's going to have more reach than the news even coming. It's going to have more reach than all these different
That's why I started
government.
following you.
Right, and it's just like
I know
so.
what's going on in the 757.
Right, it's like 875 and 804 in Charlottesville as well. And just like so, we've seen it. We grew past them, and it's like now y'all can't do nothing for us outside of comply. Other than that, we've seen it. We can self-govern. We're growing in numbers by the day, by the week, by the whatever, and we're waking the people up. You're not going to be able to keep throwing, one-liners at people or short-ended answers at people, and then people pretty much like, oh, okay, well that you're elected official, so that must be the Bible. No, like you're not going to keep deceiving our people. You're not going to lead us to slaughter. All respect to NAACP, and I told myself I was going to wait until Black History Month was over, but that wave is gone. Like I respect the earlier NAACP that came before us, but whatever is in place now, I can't really get behind, only because we've been out here since George Floyd, passed, and even us, like I said, we've been out here since 2016. So the whole sending thoughts and prayers thing is all dead and old. And like I said, they've seen headlines when we've been arrested. They've seen headlines when we've had, tear gas, deployed on us, mass arrest, taser and beatings, and et cetera. And like they just sat back and said nothing because, we just kind of feel like they're on this power trip. We're like, oh, see, we tried to tell you. If you just did it our way and lick a couple boots, we'd be all right. It's like, well, we're not in the bootlicking business, and the Democrats are not. They've had 4 years, 2 years, however many years to do stuff, and they just don't. And the reason why they feel comfortable failing the people is because they have y'all as reassurance. And saying we have to get rid of that because, like I said, they feel like, oh well, the NAACP backs us up. Like Joe Biden said, if you ain't black, you ain't black if you don't vote for me. It's like so y'all was cool letting this MF say this. Oh, he would say that in my face. What? I ain't what? If I ain't what? What I don't do is ultimatums. I'm always gonna take the latter of ultimatum. Do this or else. I want the or else. Let me get the or else. Or else for 300, Alex. What's the or else? So we're definitely about that to the fullest degree. And we're proud of what we do, and we feel like we're honoring our ancestors. In the great words, Harriet Tubman could have saved a lot more slaves if they only knew they were slaves. Like we look up to individuals like Harriet Tubman. We look up to Nat Turner. We look up to those revolutionaries who came and put an end to the status quo. Django is my favorite movie. I just come to find out that it's like based off like a real person. I would love to run through the cities fucking up white people. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to cuss up here, but like it's like it and then the people just keep doing stuff. They put us through it. They brought us to this country. I'm part Native American as well. So you stole this country from me, and then you brought my other people over here from another state, from another country, and the United States. Like, so people don't think about how is the United States still ran by predominantly old white men when this is a land that was birthed by people who pretty much like me and you, complexion wise. Like you seem like you may have an Indian in you too. I got a little curve going on, popping around, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, how is this country ran by people who aren't even from here, and it's accepted.
Yeah. Sorry for jumping in. Well, this is part of the reason why it's important to have more grassroots people who are either running for office or who are galvanizing so that they can stand up to the status quo that's going on in the area, because that's what's sorry about that. I mean, that's what's going on in the 757. I mean, if they were doing such a good job, the gyms who are running the area, then you could have easily attached yourself with them, and it would have been a done deal.
Yep, that would not be a problem.
And you wouldn't have had a problem with taking any of the money that was being thrown at you either, because you would have seen that these people had a body of work, that was benefiting the community, and there was no need to do anything else.
Yeah, and the only issue with that too, is it's like, we're having this conversation, and it's great. I honestly didn't know you were Republican. Like I said, I don't judge anybody by whatever. But the thing about it is, like I said, I always say, like, I've never been invited to speak on any Republican platforms. I mean, that's the only reason I haven't spoken with them. But that's literally the only reason why we've caught in scrutiny for speaking with Boogaloo Boys. We've caught scrutiny for speaking with 3%ers. We've caught scrutiny for speaking with Patriots. And these were people who reached out to us to let us know that whatever the media headlines were and all that jazz in between was not them. So again, we had a conversation and they let us know that they condemned the actions that took place in Charlottesville. That was our first conversation. Our first conversation with any Patriot, any 3%er was them reaching out to us, pretty much saying, hey, we're 3%ers, we're Patriots. I honestly didn't know what the hell 3%er and Patriot was. I didn't care. Like, I heard stuff, but with us, we kind of focus on what's ahead of us, and anything else is just kind of like blah. So we had the conversations, and we were going on different Republican, I guess you could call them, or I don't know what to call them. They weren't far right. We were going on their radio stations, and we were catching scrutiny from other people saying, "Oh my God, they're talking to far right extremists, and they're going on their radio shows, and they're talking about guns. Oh my God, the world is gonna end." So it's like, ma'am, sir, please relax a little bit, because I'm trying to conduct business here. So it was an eye opener for us, and like, we had people turn against us for willing to have a conversation. Like, the conversation is not an endorsement of anybody's views. We're literally just trying to find out what's going on. And what people have to realize is, even in war, the enemies, the generals or whatever, they will talk. They will have a conversation and determine if war is necessary. Right. They could avoid war if, what I'm saying, they sit down and pretty much figure out what the problem is between both sides. They could agree not to war. But at the end of the day, the powers that be sit down at a table together. Like, if you watch the movie 300, like the second 300, if you've seen the second 300, and the general of 300 or 1200 or whatever it was, he went on a boat by himself over to talk to the leader of their quote unquote enemies by himself. Like, and the reason why he did that was because, in war, a medic and a general, what I'm saying, everybody know, like, there's war crimes and there's rules of war. So even in rules of war, you have to be willing to talk with the quote unquote or alleged enemies in order to come up with a solution. Malcolm X sat down with the KKK. A lot of people don't talk about that. A lot of people don't know about that. Martin Luther King was almost killed by a black woman that stabbed him in the heart with a pen. If he would have only sneezed, he would have died. A lot of people don't talk about that. A lot of people don't know about that. So there's a lot of different, issues and stuff in these different stories that people just, leave out, intricate details. For what? Because that's not going to push your agenda. That's not going to advance your thought process or whatever.
Right.
So we can't put that out there because people may look at the full spectrum, God forbid. So we want people to look at the full spectrum. We want people to look at all sides, and that's that.
Right, because I will say that I have heard you say this before, I believe, on InfoWars, that you said that you were new. You had attended, some 2A rallies. You were outside, which, for those out there who don't know, Japharii is a big pro-gun advocate, great thing. But, you were outside and talking to people, as one would normally do, who were on the side supporting the same thing. And of course, I've been online and I've seen what some people have said. And I've observed comments, where Japharii was with so-and-so. And I've watched, and then I was thinking about whether I should say something to you. I was like, what is going on? Why are these people accusing him of different things? And you would always respond that you were just having a conversation, or just, you all have found some type of common ground that you were able to, come together on. And I will mention, I just got a comment on Facebook. One of the criticisms that we were talking about, we already sort of went over this. A woman asked, why do you want to watch a Marxist group operated by George Soros?
Yeah. Hi, how are you? Great question.
I know that's not the case. I just thought I'd ask.
So I'll address the children. So BLM 757 is independent group. We are not with the national group. Like I said, we were formulated. If you weren't here for the beginning of the interview, we were formulated to ensure that Black Lives Matter in the 757, which is a area code in the Hampton Roads area of Virginia that consists of pretty much Hampton, Newport News, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Williamsburg, etc. And with us, like I say, we were literally formulated to ensure that Black Lives Matter in our area and take forward, the different issues that we had going on here locally. Outside of that, again, like I said, we are independent and we only speak for ourselves. So anything outside of that, we hit them with a swift no comment.
Okay, absolutely. And just because this has been, a bit of a trending topic around your name.
I don't know why it keeps going out.
Yeah. Just because this was a trending topic around your name, and you sort of did go over this already, but Mike Dunn, I think that's his name. Do you want to explain who he is and how that affiliation came about or relationship came about?
I'll explain how that affiliation came about, but I honestly don't want to spend too much time on that. Let's say the affiliation between, I'll just say the Boogaloo's. The affiliation came from a Second Amendment rally on July 4th of last year, where we were there to show solidarity. We came up there with some of our comrades out of the 757. And as we got there, it's on YouTube. It's on BLM 757 YouTube. But as we got there and we were coming around the corner, apparently we had stumbled upon some type of international phenomenon, to say the least, where Mike Dunn was coming towards us. I honestly didn't know who the kid was. He has on his red, Hawaiian flower shirt, etc. He's pointing over to the other crowd. He had his boys behind him or whatever, and he's like, "Yo, those guys over there are like speaking that racist Nazi stuff or whatever, and we're not with it." And so, me and the guys were like, racist Nazi stuff. So that's what gets us up in the morning. Where? So we kind of, we kind of make our way over to, he explains to us, it's like, yeah, these are proprietarians. Yeah, it was proprietarians. He introduces us to the proprietarians. We didn't know what a proprietarian was. Even to this day, we haven't heard anything about proprietarians. So there are all these different stuff. There's all these different things that are out there that we never heard about that apparently we're not supposed to like because, whatever. So he was like, yeah, we're not with that. This, that, and the third. So like, oh yeah. So we kind of started listening in to what they was talking about because somebody over there had a megaphone bullhorn or whatever. And so we eventually went over there and, I stood up on some pedestal or whatever and just kind of told him like, yo, we thought this was a Second Amendment rally. You know what I'm saying? Y'all out here talking whatever. And we came out here standing for the Second Amendment. We didn't come here to say, F white people. We literally came out here on a Second Amendment tip. And y'all are showing us that we can't come to stuff like this because y'all this is who y'all are. This is who y'all are. Like you are who you are. But this is not why we're here. We're here standing for the Second Amendment. And then Mike Dunn and his book boys came behind us and they were screaming white supremacy sucks. And we kind of took over what was going on. And that was, what kind of sparked. But we didn't know who the Boogaloo Boys were. We didn't know what a Boogaloo Boy was. We didn't know anything about them. Like they were already getting followed apparently by like Vice News and Tess Owens and all these people that we didn't, we've seen kind of on the scene when Charlottesville happened, but that was 2017. Like I said, last year was 2020. So, that was like a 2017, 2019. That's like a 3-year gap or whatever. I was like, I didn't know why Vice News was following this white kid around.
All this was 2020?
The Mike Dunn situation?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 2020. That was the summer of last year.
Okay, the summer of last year. So we actually probably have like this close to the same experience with the group. I won't say I have experience, but I found out what they were after going to Lobby Day last year, and it's kind of a similar situation of where I didn't know these people who were outside. I spent I think 7 hours outside through some freezing cold.
Yeah, I was out there. We were out there for that Lobby Day too. We were at the Lobby Day last year and Lobby Day this year. We didn't meet Mike and them for last year's Lobby Day. I said but we were out there amongst the masses of like 20 however many thousand people in 2020, and then we were out there this year for the tens of people. So
yeah, but so I was out to I was outside and of course just talking to all of the 2A supporters that were outside. And so um, it's easy to come across these groups and not knowing who's, related to what. And cancel culture kicks in. 2021 came around and I didn't go to lobby day this year, mostly because in my head, I honestly felt like I said, I feel like I am going to be caught in a picture with someone. I feel like I'm going to be a byline somewhere. That's probably not the correct thinking to have, but that was how I felt, and that's why I wasn't out this year. And unfortunately, like that's sort of like what happened with you, and you've been trolled about this for like the whole last the whole last year.
Well,
Well,
that's the
last
thing
couple of
about it,
years.
man. The thing of me is like I've been
And I
getting
was
trolls since
wondering, and I legitimately was
2017.
wondering what that was. And I said, well, let me at least look into this person. This is probably not fair. I think one of the people who were harassing me, I was like, in the pre-show, I was a campaign manager for a city council candidate. He would occasionally tweet me about about my candidate being out marching, armed, and then he would like list people he's around. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, just knock that off.
Seriously, it's like people come at you and they really want you to adopt their way of thinking, and if you don't, you're like deemed as evil or something crazy. And it's just like, yo, I'm like, I'm gonna find out for myself. I don't really need your third party, information. If I can find out myself, like, I got a question about you. I'm gonna ask you. I'm hopping your DM on Twitter. I may tweet you live in person or whatever, or call you on the phone if I have your number. But why am I finding out information about people from other people? And it's like, are you willing to have the conversation with us on a three-way? And if you're not, I can't really respect it, because like you're sitting here telling me something about somebody and they're like, oh, let's call them. Let's, oh no, don't do that. I'm like, what? You don't do that. You just said something about this person. It's like you can't just leave it there. Come on, now we gotta find out what's up. So but yeah, so we originally went up to Lobby Day in 2020, like I said, when it was 20-some thousand people up there. To stand for the Second Amendment. We got the rigmarole. That's kind of where we started getting shifty too, because the different Democratic groups and Moms Demand Action, or whatever, they had put it into everybody's head that it was just like, oh my God, it's like these white guys with guns, and they lack testosterone because they carry big guns. America, and I was like, bro, like. No, they don't. And they're the ones that told us that y'all was on the verge of coming and try to take guns. And then lo and behold, first thing Biden does when he gets signed into office is come for the guns. Red flag laws and all the other nonsense that we didn't know nothing about because we've been blinded. You know what I'm saying? We got these blinders on, and we have these token leaders who are leading us to slaughter. And it's just like, bro, so we got police brutality. You know what I'm saying? We're in Virginia. We got the KKK still running around. We got the far right. We have neo-Nazis, and y'all still want to do pitchforks and torches to defend ourselves? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. They running around here with the big things, and we just gonna be sitting with brooms and butcher knives. Like
I did share on Facebook a tweet that you retweeted where someone said that if the police can't if we can't open carry guns, then the police shouldn't. Seems
right.
pretty simple to me. And if you didn't see this, just a couple years ago, I think it was 2019, someone spray painted KKK and shot up some cars in Petersburg. I don't remember how many. I think it was like 70 incidents, and no one talks about it anymore. And I remember being upset about it because I had only been here for about a year, and I said, look, this is not normal. I know you all are trying to say that this was probably some fluke, fake me out event that someone did, some Black person did. I'm sorry, still not normal. I don't think I ever heard anything from our city leadership about what happened. But that's reason enough that we should all be able to open carry, which is why, seeing you outside in these rallies, I'm like, if he is on board with that, then I think that we've got some common ground here.
Mm-hmm. And it's like the more and more we have these conversations, what I'm saying, even like say with everybody, the more you find, like, I mean, it seems cliche, but the more people see that there is more in common. Like The differences come from, media bias, political party bias, and like I said, it's all divisive. It's all divisive movements from the powers that be that kind of keep us to a degree. And like I said, it may or may not be fault. People are products of their environment. I don't like to give people excuses. I like people create their own excuses on their own. But sometimes I do have to address the elephant in the room. It's just like, I mean, these people are who they are because of what they grew up around. And if you elect a lot of officials that ain't never been around nothing, of course they're gonna, think that, oh, this is the way because these facts told me this. I'm like, wait, did you, like you said earlier, did you talk to the people? No, of course not. Why would you do that? You got facts in your head. Why would you need to talk to the people? Because you got facts. So it's just, people are so close-minded when it comes to, seeing anything but the easy answer. The easy answer is not, I don't feel like the easy answer is good for the people. I feel like the hard answer, I feel like the difficult answer is going to get the actual results. Because like I said, I mean, we're not, we don't totally disregard the rich or whatever. Like, if you're rich, you kind of, grew that pedestal, you grew your business or climbed the corporate ladder or however you got there, or had it inherited. So that means whoever you came before you, they fought for it. So one way or another, bloodline, that's like, I would hope to be able to bless my kids with stuff. And, I would hope my son or daughter wouldn't be frowned upon because their father took the necessary steps to be able to pass them an inheritance. But it's like, they do act like there aren't systematic racism and systematic injustices in place that have been holding us back for, a very long time. And it continues to hold us back. Even here locally, I'll speak on an issue where they in Portsmouth, Virginia, they put cages up around this lower income housing community. And on top of that, the patients also had to sign a lease saying that they wouldn't carry any firearms in an open carry state. So they can't have any type of firearms. They can't have, and they're caged in. They caged off this
This
lower
public
income
housing, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they can't smoke cigarettes or weed or whatever, and they can't carry a firearm, and they're caged in. So God forbid they come home one day and there's an intruder. Again, we go back to the butcher knives and brooms. That is just like, so how is keeping individuals unarmed beneficial at all whatsoever when there's criminals who have a gun, a knife, bad intentions, who are going to come do whatever regardless? How is this beneficial to the people? It's not.
And this is one that I've studied pretty intensely. Now, usually I'm aware of it being where felons are not allowed to have guns inside of public housing. Is this for all of the tenants that are there?
No, this was this entire housing complex.
The whole okay.
Yeah, this is an entire complex. And now I'll get the name for it. But it's an entire housing complex in Portsmouth, Virginia. We just did a news interview on it yesterday with the Black Panthers and the Fred Hampton Gun Club and the Huey Newton Gun Club. And it's kind of like, say, one of the situations where it's like, look, y'all are setting us up. Like, y'all are literally setting us up.
So that's actually very important, like for the people who follow me, particularly the Republicans who support people carrying guns, except insert group of people, and one of them being felons, because I say that, okay, well, let's say there's a felon and they happen to be in public housing or just, wherever. Just because you've been released from prison and you're home and you're free, it doesn't mean that you no longer have a reason to protect yourself. I'm pretty sure the people who live in that complex, and so if you know that an entire address of people, probably 100 folks or so, no one has guns, okay, you can go and ransack the place. You're setting people up. And I really wish that the two people would pick up on stories like that a little more often. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate we're to this point, but it's fortunate, but it's unfortunate. Like I said, that's why I always say, I thank God for the journey, coming this far. I say thank God for the different trials and tribulations and different conversations that have been had that have developed things to where they are now. And like even still now, it's like every day is, constantly learning something new and constantly evolving. And that's kind of like what we strive ourselves for. Like we don't want to keep doing the same thing, expecting different results, which is the actual definition of insanity. We don't want to keep taking our people down the same path and wondering why nothing's changing. Like, you're literally doing the same thing. Like, what's supposed to change? What you doing the same thing? How do you logically, expect to have any type of change doing the exact same thing, exact same system or whatever? It's just not been working. And we're talking about hundreds of years of this track record. We're talking about, numerous election cycles. We're talking about, that they came and went. They have the House and the Senate at this point. And, the first rule, the first thing, like I said, it just, it was another click in my head. Like, we had been telling people to vote for Biden, but the first thing on his mind was to make sure that somebody born male can get on the same sports arena as somebody born female. And I have a daughter who might want to play sports one day, and she's out there with somebody who was born Tyrod, and now he's out there as Taylor Swift. I don't know. So it's like, I don't have no problem at all with the LGBTQI community, but this issue in particular, I do see a huge flaw in this. How is somebody able to compete? And then you see the stories where
how it happened to be the first thing that it was on everyone's mind to deal with. So
yeah, was it the first? Like, this is what we were all waiting for. Like, this is what we were waiting for years
in the middle of COVID, mind you.
Right.
When people are not working and all that good stuff.
Everybody's worried about a man being able to go out on the floor with, like I said, I have a daughter, so it hits me a little differently. I'm just like, so my daughter, if she, she's about to be 2. So like, if she chose to pursue, I don't know, track and field, UFC, whatever she chooses to be a sports person. So she's expecting to go out and compete against, individuals of her gender, and, saying, because testosterone is different. That's one thing that you cannot, differentiate against. Testosterone is different. So we're in there fighting or doing something physical. That's not something you can, fairly, put people aside for with it. I am, however, for transgender league. Have your own league. People who want to, compete with each other, regardless of, their born status. Fuck it up. Go on basketball court, football court, fighting, whatever sports arena it may be. Do your thing. I'm all for it, and I'm pretty sure somebody will make a lot of millions of dollars if they compile that league or whatever. But I think, putting individuals on the same field of these people, and that's like the first thing. And then we bomb in Syria, and I still can't get any clear answers as to why we did that. I would really like to know why we bombed Syria. Like, I legitimately want to know why we bombed Syria. Like, I really want to know. And it's like, Russia can do whatever they want, say whatever they want. We ain't bomb Russia. Why we ain't bomb Russia? So, we scared. Oh, they might actually fight back. So, how that goes.
But,
do you know why we bombed Syria?
I don't know. I mean, but, this is, as you've been saying on interviews, this is our leadership, right? This is part of the reason why you're both independent from BLM and independent from both parties. Because, at this point in time, as I said, for people who are not working, and for the fact that I really believe that a lot of the rioting and looting that happened probably had to do with the fact that people were not making money for the longest. And there was a lot of opportunism going on. And now it's 8, 9, 10 months later of this. And
8, 9, 10 months. It's been a year. It's been a year. I don't know where you're from. We went on lockdown in Virginia last year. We went on lockdown last March. That was like the start of lockdown. Last March was like the start. So like this is like, and so like I've been in the streets, saying, with the activism. So, the cabin fever was kicking in. Carol Baskin, all that. When the pandemic first happened, everybody was on their Carol Baskin, and then it was just like, all right, well that era is done. It's like, how long are we really supposed to sit in the house? And then like, next thing you know, it was May and June and July, and restrictions were rising. They were like, oh yeah, when the summertime comes, we'll be able to, everybody will go outside because COVID can't survive the heat. That was a whole lie.
And I forgot which governor it was who was arguing, I think it was Alabama, arguing incessantly about changing, I think it was unemployment amount from like 400 to 300. And he was doing this for a week or something like that. And he was doing this for like weeks on end. And, We have issues with this $1,400, $2,000, I think, that's being given, and we're bombing the country. That doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily seem like that adds up, but
A lot of
that's the
stuff doesn't. I
leadership.
mean, a lot of stuff didn't. And the thing, I think that they were getting. I think with COVID, I'm thankful for that too because I feel like people actually did have the time to look at too. So generally everybody's living their life, living in the fast lane or whatever, just getting through their day to day, and COVID like literally like made everybody like stop and literally, what I'm saying, pay
Absolutely.
attention because it's on the TV screens and it's like, on the news and like generally like I said, you're at work or you're in passing, you read a headline, you keep it moving. But being, stuck in the house and be like, oh, wait, this is what? All this is really going on. And it's like this has been going on. It's like, so this ain't nothing new. It's like, nah, just ain't been paying attention to it because, had other stuff going on, had other business to tend to or whatever. So and it's not like it wasn't bad on our part. Everybody was just living life. And so now it's like, generally people were just like, oh, not my problem, not my business, not my problem, or not my, whatever. So it's not affecting my day. Why worry about it? But then like I said people were able to sit down and then the government showed their hand. And this is something I hark on too. It's like so they pretty much Thanos snapped their fingers and created all this money to be able to dish out to people. Snapped their fingers, made stuff law within like 24 to 48 hours or else. And it's like, so y'all have this power. So y'all have this money, but y'all still not taking care of our veterans. Y'all still not taking care of mental health crisis. Y'all still locking people up for drugs. And like I said, I don't know other people's take on it, but I do feel like I said, if people want to do drugs, I don't really care. I choose not to do drugs, but if other people choose to do drugs, I don't really care. That's on them. That's their body, their choice, all the way around. Is it their body, their choice, or is it just your body, your choice when it comes to certain stuff?
I
So
did hear you
I
talk about this regarding drugs before. If I would like you to elaborate
mm,
on that, your take on drug use.
yeah. So the war on drugs, I'm totally against. The war on drugs pretty much consists of the police going all out to quote unquote prosecute people for having drugs or distributing them or receiving them or using them or whatever. But at the same time, we can easily get a prescription for opioids, easily get a prescription and over pay for diabetes medicine to keep us alive. And a lot of different stuff. That's where big pharma kills us all day, every day. Regulations, non-regulations, overprice, overtaxes for healthcare, for stuff that like other countries who are quote unquote far less advanced than us are getting health, at least getting healthcare. These other countries are realizing, oh, keeping people alive maybe should be a priority. Yeah, it's just common sense. But the war on drugs, like I said, where they spend all these millions of dollars investigating people, and then we see all the time these different news stories where they have these bags of weed and a couple little guns, and like, oh, we just saved the neighborhood. It was like, meanwhile, these people were driving the street, not minding their own business, and now their family is like going through all this other rigmarole because y'all don't like drugs. So since y'all don't like these type of drugs, y'all like drugs. If y'all find me with a bottle full of Advil, I'm good. If y'all find me with a bottle full of Tylenol, I'm good. God forbid you find me with my drug of choice, then all of a sudden I'm the bad guy. No, it's not working like that. It's just like I said, people. I said I'm not for it. I wish people would purify their bodies, but at the same time, food is addictive. Drinking alcohol is addictive. Too much sunlight. There's a lot of things that considered bad in moderation. So, whatever people choose to do, as long as they're not infringing on anybody else's rights, you should be able to do it. As long as you're not violating somebody else or doing something to somebody else, you should do what you want, man. Live and let live.
I really feel like that is the best litmus test for any law. Um, I'm against prohibition, so I think we're on the same page with that. There's a police group called, I think it's Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, where they point out that the war on drugs is the cause for the majority of our crime. And I think there was on InfoWars where it said with you that if we cut out the war on drugs or at least attack that first, that could easily be 50, 60, 70% of our crime cut down. So I actually hope that someone's listening to you with that, and maybe we can get to that point in time in this country somewhere in the near future. And look, before we go, because I could easily sit with you for some time. I want to hear your take on what is it called? It's on the tip of my tongue. Defunding police.
Yes, absolutely. Defund all of them. So I would like to take the time to speak on, like I said, the whole defund rhetoric and people who well, it's two different type of people. There's people that say defund the police, and then there's people who say that that's like a curse word. Like why would you want to defund the police thing? Or what if you had to call the police then? But you won't be saying that then. I say, yeah, I probably will be because ACAB, all cops are bastards. But with that, it's just a fact of just think about it. The defund the police and refund the community. There's a lot of different, like one of the cases that initially was the reason why BLM 757 was started. David Latham, he was a black man, and there was a mental health crisis, and his family called the police after exhausting all of the resources. They had no other choice. The police come to his house, their house, and they shoot David Latham dead within 56 seconds of being at their house. And they were their police was parked at the end of the driveway. David Latham was in his doorway, which was up some steps, so it was probably about 30 to 50 feet, if not more, of space. It's not like he could have reached out and touched anybody. He had a knife in his hand, and they claimed that he lunged for it, and they shot him dead in front of his mom. And that could have been handled a lot differently, de-escalation situations. And either the mental health crises, and it's like some situations just don't need the cops. It's cops like, oh yeah, we're supposed to be.
And the police admitted that he was not a threat.
Right, and so the police are like, oh well, we're supposed to be mental health actors. We're supposed to be this. We're supposed to be that. Supposed to be the third. Like, no, you're not. You just need to be a cop, and the money they pay y'all, if they pay it to mental health, associates. And stuff like that. And then even still, how we are now, and I'll say this here for the first time ever on broadcast, it is time where, we refront the community. As far as, like I said, we do work with the Black Panthers, the Fred Hampton Gun Club, the Huey P. Newton Gun Club, these different quote unquote militias who are willing to police their own community. So we don't need the police. And once we do have our numbers to the point where we're like, hey, we have 1,000-person army right here. We're ready to police our own community. We don't need you anymore. We need the funding that would normally be going to police for these fancy vehicles, guns, tasers, paintball, whatever y'all use the money for. And we're just going to give that money to the local Panthers or the local Fred Hampton Gun Club, and they're going to secure XYZ neighborhoods. And we'll call you for murders, rapes, or molestation. Outside of that, we don't need you in our neighborhood. We don't need you pulling us over and searching our cars and trying to find stuff. We don't need you poking your nose in our business. We don't need you acting like you give a shit and you're just out here to lock one of us up or wait for us to say the right thing for you to be able to lock us up. We don't need you. We really don't. So with that being said, like I said, the core needs, yes, we do know that for murders, we need to be able to investigate murders. We need a forensics team to come in, gather the necessary evidence, have it in a safe and secure place, etc. But we don't need y'all pulling over everybody that comes out with a bad tail light. We don't need y'all pulling everybody that comes over with an inspection sticker. People have shit going on and they didn't have time to get it done. That's the only answer they should have to give you. Like, I'm sure your life is not perfect. I'm sure you're not 100% debt free on all aspects. So don't come, you wear a badge and now you're all of a sudden supposed to tell people what they're supposed to have and not have done. And, and then after you get pulled over, you go to court. The cop gets paid for pulling you over. The cop gets paid when you go to court. You took a day off work. You came to court. You hired a lawyer. You're missing pay from that day. You don't get reimbursed. And the only beneficiary is the system. So what is protecting and serving about that? Or you putting somebody in more of a financial strait by pulling them out of work, making them pay a fine, or buy a lawyer, which is probably going to be more than your fine, but at least you don't have it on your record because your record is just so, got to have your record right. So it's a lot. I said it's a lot to digest. It's a lot to unravel. I mean, I wouldn't mind coming up here again. Like I said, with some set questions and making some regular of it. I do appreciate individuals like yourself with individual podcasts or broadcasts or whatever.
Absolutely.
We do kind of try to stray away from the quote unquote mainstream because they have their agenda. They have what they want to put out there. So these type of interviews, I can appreciate more because y'all are trying to get the word out to quote unquote normal people like me and yourself that normally, let's say people generally are going to turn to, Fox. But people are sick of everything at this point. Like people are sick of, CNN. People are sick of Democrats. Even Republicans are sick of Republicans. I'm sure you can probably speak on that too. It's just like everybody's sick of everything. It's just like, hey man, we all started from scratch. What's up? Hey, where we at? Like, wait, I'm sorry we ain't talked for like 4 years. What you got? So it's like,
And look, to add what you were saying to the police, and I'll let you go. I did run over a bit. So there are communities that have private police. That is a normal thing. For those who are wondering why or how that would work as far as getting them out of the community. And you did not say that you wanted to get rid of them altogether. So I did want to clarify that for people. And
realistically, let's think. Realistically, let's be realistic. So I'm sitting here saying defund the police. I'm sitting here saying get rid of them, but I don't have something to replace them. That's ignorant. That's setting the people up for failure, etc. So no, and until we have that army that could literally come in, like if I don't have the power to come in today and say, hey, I got this army here to do this. We don't need y'all. Until then, we're still in that conversation building that. But until we can come up with a solution, I don't believe in presenting a problem in one hand and not having at least a suggestive solution in the other.
Right. And it was more so about, practices of theirs. And you have mentioned that there are preemptive measures such as dealing with mental health so that we are not here at the last resort of police all the time. So, it would never get rid of them and that be the end of it. So, before we go,
there are activists like that, and I don't want to speak for that because there are some activists I do know to listen to and do follow. They are complete abolitionists and they do want it all burnt to the ground and stuff. And I definitely respect their opinions as well. So I don't want to get that misconstrued. But just for the most part, me and myself and my journey, this is where I'm at with it.
Right.
Until we can form that army to take over, then
Right, of course. Which is why just thought that I would clarify that since that happens to be the hot button topic. Listen, before you go,
appreciate it.
Could you let everyone know where to find you and your campaign online?
Yes. So right now, I am still in the process of getting the website built. But for right now, it's just Japharii757 on Twitter and Instagram. Again, this is an independent campaign. I more than likely will not be invited to the debates because they simply do not support independent candidates or libertarian candidates in these different political campaigns. So one of my only ways of getting the word out will be social media. And then like I say with COVID clearing up, we'll be able to get out more. But again, like I said, just appreciate everybody for any type of support and sharing of the message. And like I say, just knowing that there are other options for these candidates and for these campaigns. But yeah, Japharii757 on Twitter and Instagram. Japharii stuff through Jones on Facebook, but Facebook kind of like monitor or censors a lot. On TikTok, Japharii757, Snapchat, Japharii757, Google Japharii Jones, Japharii, or Google BLM757. Hit the news tab, and you can kind of see what we've been involved with a little bit. So I encourage everybody to please sign all petitions on BLM757.org. You never know what those petitions could help save. As of right now, Matthew Russian, a Black autistic man, he's set to come home at the end of this month. We started a petition for him last March. He was set to do 10 years of a 50-year sentence for a non-fatal car accident. And he will be coming home at the end of this month as opposed to 10 years from now. So again, please sign all petitions on BLM757.org and support the families that we support. And I say any families outside of that as well. So yeah, just peace and power to all. keep hope alive.
All right, appreciate it. If you could hang on just for a second, we're going to go out in a moment. But everyone out there, check out our recent interviews with R&B singer Tara Bowling, Mr. Ray from Love and Hip Hop Hollywood, and my favorite coffee shop owner Amy Crump of Sweet Bliss Cafe. I was drinking out of her mug today. But this will be on it's on our Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube channels. And until next time, I will see you all soon.